I was over the weekend discussing with a Dharma friend, and he is for another tradition. He's from Advaita Vedanta tradition. And we were talking about, guess what? Enlightenment. And because definition or ways to get there, methods, and also conceptual frameworks are different between the tradition and the Buddha's teaching. So he said, okay, enlightenment is depends on the tradition you come from, and it's a matter of definition. And anyway, you have to be very humble and somehow not to seek for it, not to want it, right? And I would say very, very shortly, in a nutshell, how I would define enlightenment would be the total removal of lust, hatred, and ignorance. No longer arise. This would be my definition of full enlightenment. And do we have to want it, right? Because I've always said that we had also to abandon any kind of desire and lust for something, including, of course, enlightenment. But somehow you have to have this, we would say, skillful motive for the destination. Otherwise, what's going to motivate you to train your mind, to purify your heart, to sit and to do those practice? That sometimes during the stages of insights, you go through very rough times. So if you do not practice for the goal, then why, right? Of course, I understand if it's enlightenment is the realization of this awareness that is in between the thoughts. Then, of course, you have to drop any kind of desire or techniques or any kind of will or fabrication for a certain goal in order to realize that. I understand. But if we are really talking about purification of you and purification of mind, then one has to be curious. One has to say, yeah, I really want to develop this mind and this heart in order to see what it is to live without lust, hatred, and delusion. If there is really a way how to do it, let's do the practice. Yes, you do not have to talk around and brag about it. And this is, yes, I genuinely would like to restrain my mind and be very conscious about what I thought, what I think, what I say, and what I do in order to let go of certain unwholesome and unskillful mental habits, and in order to develop good and skillful mental habits, and with the goal in mind so that they no longer that the bad factors, let's say, no longer comes up again ever, so that I genuinely would like to free myself from the cycle of samsara. Because we, of course, in those teachings, we learn how to restrain, to abandon, to let go, to not let the me expresses itself too much. So we might have the tendency, which is to also not to want it, no, but it looks like I want something and therefore it's against the teachings. So no, I prefer just to sit and not to think about it. So we have to find balance. And I also thought about that because we are talking about full enlightenment, which would say total selflessness, let's say, and that not wanting enlightenment, it can be a cover, a disguise of the mind, let's say, to not develop itself to the extent that you realize what this me is. So it's a kind of it can be the disguise of self-protection, again disconstructing the self. All right, I'll have a look again. Okay, so to your question, I'm finishing with the topic I'm engaged right now with. And so also someone told me, no, but enlightenment, I don't want it. I don't want something I don't want to attain. I don't want any attainment. I don't need it. I would say also that there is if you don't need it, that means that you do not realize the danger of being in your situation. You do not realize how much you are, because you do not want to develop it or to be too serious about it. You do not realize that you are still building the conditions, all right, the seeds, still planting some seeds that would let grow the conditions for future rebirth. And you still don't see that the danger in being reborn, or the danger of not being a stream enterer, that the consequences that this have. So I would advise, when you still don't see the advantage of enlightenment, to contemplate again the Four Noble Truths again and again and again, to watch again the talk I gave about it, the danger, the gratification, danger, and escape of sensual pleasures, sensual desires. And this video is actually one of the least watched. This is crucial point for someone who is genuinely interested in those teachings. Those teachings are very uncomfortable to digest and be with. Yes. So one has to pay attention. All right. So because I'm selfless and not too much ego centered, then I don't want enlightenment. But not wanting to develop oneself, or that means that we will most probably still have wholesome and unwholesome states in a mix of karma, right? We will still continue to harm ourselves and others, most probably, and to build up the conditions for future suffering. only those who have really had a very difficult life, lots of suffering, who are really focused on the practice and say, enough is enough. I would do anything to just go, to just, yes, have that breakthrough. And there are stories of monks who actually were really in that urgency. This urgency of practicing will arise as soon as you've understood. You've understood that the 5 aggregates of clinging are actually a source of suffering. And you would say, okay, I will do everything that is in my power in order to see directly what the Buddha said, develop wisdom, direct knowledge, and then burn out those seeds, or uproot the weeds in order to never ever come back to the situation I was in. That's enough. And there was this monk who were, just walking, doing walking meditation all the time. And he had a eye issue. And someone told him, yes, friend, you have to go and see someone for your eye, otherwise you will get blind. You have to stop your meditation, go to the city and see someone to get medicine, to get cure, otherwise you will lose your eyesight. And he said, do not interrupt me, friend. I'd rather lose my eyesight than stop meditating. He did. Yeah, if I remember correctly, he got blind and enlightened. Right? So this is extreme case. But urgency, you might feel that along your practice, that at some point you will get crazy about meditation and about that, and really watch every moment what your mind is doing. But this is when wisdom develops, because you've seen that, yes, indeed, what are the origin of suffering and how suffering arises and how to stop it. Yes. The Noble Eightfold Path. Right action, right intention, right concentration, right livelihood, right view, right mindfulness, right effort. I might have forgotten one. And so I was having this discussion with this friend about enlightenment and about, at some point, I don't know why it has become taboo, like to speak about it. Is that a bad thing to want to develop hard qualities? Why is it that? If at the time of the Buddha, the man and woman would leave home from homelessness, right? And that would be for only one thing: enlightenment. So what's the difference nowadays? Why do you develop spiritual practices? And I was thinking about that, also sending a voice message, a reply, and then I opened the Samyutta Nikaya, and it opened on the very relevant page, which is untitled searches. And this is the Buddha speaking to the bhikkhu. And he said, these are these three searches. What three? The search for sensual pleasure, the search for existence, and the search for a holy life. These are the three searches. And he adds, the Noble Eightfold Path is to be developed for direct knowledge of these three searches, which means, my interpretation is that, okay, search for sensual pleasures. This is what the normal worldly human being does, to have gratification from the senses. Search for existence. This is mostly becoming. And the search for a holy life, those are seekers for spiritual life, right? Finding a way, finding. There must be something else. You know, when you start asking yourself, there must be something else than just that. Actually, this is maybe how you came to those Buddha's teachings. Just wonder, okay, there is life, there is growing up, having an education, getting married, children, but really, this is really all there is. So this is when I say the search for a holy life. And when you understand that, you have to change something to reorient your way of being, of living, in order to stop suffering. So, and then he develops what is the Noble Eightfold Path. And he said that this Noble Eightfold Path has to be developed, and it is based upon seclusion, dispassion, cessation, maturing in release. This Noble Eightfold Path is to be developed for direct knowledge of these three searches. So once again, when you say direct knowledge, this is when you contemplate, when you sit in meditation. Direct knowledge is without really rationalizing or having intellectual, philosophical thinking. It's just knowing for yourself that indeed, if I had to, what kind of pursuit I had before and what kind of pursuit I can develop, which is different. And he said again that the Noble Eightfold Path has its final goal the removal of lust, the removal of hatred, the removal of delusion. So there is a goal. And the Buddha was very clear all the time about that, right? That this is what we have to keep in mind without it being an obstacle, of course, like another thing that one has to grasp. It will happen, of course, because the mind has this tendency and habit, but the practice will lead you gradually to ungrasp, right? But he said clearly, the goal is this. The goal is the removal of lust, hatred, and delusion. He doesn't say, yeah, it's better to not have any goal. It's better not to have that in mind. It's better to not want enlightenment. This is not what he says, all right? And again, he said the Noble Eightfold Path, which has the deathless as its ground, the deathless as its destination, the deathless as its final goal. So again, deathless is a synonym for Nibbana. And you repeat that this Noble Eightfold Path is to be developed for direct knowledge of these three searches. The path has to be developed for full understanding of these three searches, has to be developed for the utter destruction of these three searches. So further utter destruction of these three searches, that means that one doesn't need anymore to have desire for sensual pleasures. We remove craving for sensual pleasures, remove the craving for existence. And we also, because the path is brought to an end, meaning full enlightenment, then you do no longer need the path, or you do no longer need the once the mind has been purified completely, the defilements are uprooted for good, then you do not have to develop the holy life. It has been developed. It's you have you can enjoy the enlightenment state, I would say, right? There is no longer, you would keep maybe you would keep practicing meditation because your mind will still has to be again and again, let's say, trained and put in the altered state of consciousness, which are impermanent states. So you have, when you come out and you want again samadhi, then you have to practice again, to practice or actually to sit. And because you have to somehow do something wholesome, so dwelling in the states is the right, correct way, good way to spend your time there. And again, synonymous to, he says that the Noble Eightfold Path is to be developed for the abandoning of these three searches. We can be regarding the destruction. Well, those words, right? Destruction, utter destruction of the three searches, or when we say utter destruction of the defilements and things like this, those are very strong words. Like, yeah, we have really things too that are not good in us, you see, and we can somehow become averse from those words. Actually, there is nothing wrong with me, right? Or not that much. I don't see what I'm doing wrong in my life. So we do not like to hear those words, or we start to feel bad about ourselves. But one has to be very honest. And the inside practice, looking at the content of our minds, and also mindfulness, for foundations of mindfulness, will tell us that yes, indeed, there are things that I have to abandon, there are things that I have to let go of, there are things that are not that nice, and that it's better for me in order not to accumulate to bad karma, to stop doing, thinking, saying. Yeah, say, okay, we all start like this. The Buddha, before being a fully enlightened, wasn't enlightened, right? He had palaces, he was rich, he enjoyed essential pleasures like 200, 500%. This is how big, and because of that, he knew very well. He knew very well the gratification that can be obtained from the essential pleasures. Right? So that was a topic I wanted to address because also among you, several of you actually told me exactly that. I don't want it. No. If you have it in mind, while doing the practice, then there is no really big risk, because you develop as well the virtues. You stick to the 5 precepts. So, and if you really do the 4 foundations of mindfulness, then there is no way that somehow, if you apply the method, that you will brag about it. Okay. And once the stream entry, being a stream enterer, then afterwards you know how bad it could be for yourself to take advantage of any status you can have, to manipulate, to lie, to make your ego bigger using that. You would know that it would be it would be quite bad karma to do that, actually. So it's difficult for me to see how it could happen. And the more you go through the stages of enlightenment, the more humble you are. Yes, because you realize things as they are, the processes, the selfless process that you are. And also, if you want to go further into the stages, you really have to abandon also conceit and the desire to be superior. But the desire to be inferior is as bad as the desire to be superior. And this usually, the desire to be not seen, to be really in the background, and not to have any responsibility, like being transparent, is like being very visible and wanting to show and wanting to say. Two are two sides of the same coin. Do the practice, and then those two sides will shrink. Let's come back to the question, right, that you asked.